Hello, everybody. Just going live on all social media platforms right now, letting a few of you join in. Welcome. Here we are. Hello, welcome, everybody. This is Neil with Portal to Ascension. Thank you all so much for being here. And let me click record really quick. I forgot to do that. Extremely excited to be with you all today. We are live on multiple YouTubes, on social media, Facebook, and we have a Zoom room going on here. So a lot of amazing people joining in from all over. And why don't we start out with having some engagement? Before we get into today's event and I break down what we're going to be experiencing and who Peter Sterling is, why don't we all if you're compelled to, let us know where you're from in the chat room, on or off planet. Go ahead and say hi, make yourself known. Let's get some interaction here. Today's event is going to be definitely Peter Sterling presenting to us, but at any point, if you have any questions, we want to make this as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, leave them in the chat, leave them in the Q&A, leave them in YouTube. I'm going to be moderating, and we're going to incorporate all of that in today. Firstly, I want to say hello, and I'm so glad to be back on YouTube because I haven't actually gone live on YouTube for a month and a half now. So this is the beginning of us going live on YouTube again. Peter's the first presentation. Tomorrow, there's going to be another presentation with Nadi, and she is going to do a presentation called Crop Circle Activations. And I'm going to share that link at the end of today's presentation in YouTube and Zoom, so you can register for that for free. But starting now, every single Tuesday, we'll be live with a different speaker, including myself, presenting on a range of topics. But we're going into a few months of sound and vibrational awareness topics. And then after that, it's going to be ancient civilizations. And, who knows where we're going to go on beyond that. But the weekly class that I told everybody I was committing to, but I didn't follow through with it, is coming back. So you have that to look forward to. So today we are going to be joined with Peter Sterling. And the name of today's presentation is Sound, Music. Let me pull it up here. Sound, Music, and the Merkaba. And a little bit about Peter. He is a master harpist and sound traveler. Devoted listeners of his music have consistently reported a greater sense of peace, spiritual visions, and even miraculous healings. His 25 years of deep space exploration has provided him with a vast body of knowledge to enable mankind to understand what else exists beyond that which meets the eye and open to new dimensional awareness. And then a little bit about my own experience with Peter. We connected back in 2011, I believe, maybe even before that, 2010, I think it was. Yeah, 2010. He joined us for a few small events we were doing. And then soon, by 2012, he joined us for our first live Portal to Ascension conference, which was called the Cosmic Reunion 2012 in Irvine, California. This was like in November 2012. So since then, we've maintained our friendship and been colleagues and worked together on and off for so long. So I'm really excited to be introducing you, if you don't know who Peter is, especially to his work, because not only has he been with Portal to Ascension for the whole evolution that we've gone through, but I've also had an opportunity to witness his evolution and his information, and it really is profound. Not only is he an incredible harp player with multiple awards, but he also speaks on the science, the frequency, the art behind cymatics, vibration, and sound in general. So let's go ahead and bring Peter on.
Hello, hey, Neil. Hello, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for being here with me today. I was just, as you were reading my little bio there, I realized that this course today, this presentation, Sound, Music, and the Merkaba, I haven't presented in quite some time. I haven't used that title in quite some time. And it says I have 25 years of deep space exploration. Well, that was 15 years ago. So now I'm at 40 years. I just want to update that piece for you. And a lot has happened. Most recently, I'll just touch on, I just launched my new album, The Winding Way, just came out on August 13th. This is my 17th CD that I've done in like 30 years. So super excited about that. And also my previous CD, Sanctuary of Light, came out in 2020. This recently won the Culver Visionary Music Award, the Silver Award in the Culver Awards, and also won the Hollywood Music Award for Best New Age Ambient Song of the Year. So it's been pretty exciting with my music lately, and the audience there continues to grow. But I love to share this information because this is when I put all the pieces together with a lot of these codes and images and systems that we're going to be talking about, it had a huge impact in my life. So we're going to get into all that. I thought maybe I might open with a little harp song just to kind of set the mood for everybody.
Yeah, let's do it. And let me just remind everybody here, if you have questions, please leave them in the Q&A area and in the chat. I'll be moderating and coming in whenever. But I'll go ahead and stop my camera and microphone, and brother, and you can start.
Okay. Okay, here we go now. So I'm going to share my screen now. I guess I'll share my screen. And Neil, can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, let's try that. I'm going to do my desktop. And let's see. Oh, hold on a second now. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. That's a great image that we're going to get back to. Look at all this great stuff we have. But I like to start here where my journey began, where I'm speaking to you today from Sedona, the galactic starport, a PowerPoint on planet Earth here. This is a picture of me taken several years ago out in the depths of Boynton Canyon, which is a really powerful multidimensional vortex. A lot has happened for people, for myself, for many of my friends in this particular area. And we really believe it is a dimensional portal here. And that was my experience. It was here when I'd been living in my car, my van, for like 3 years, and just meditating out here every day in the silence of these canyons and doing a lot of deep shamanic work, a lot of deep healing on myself, but really going into my meditation, my yoga practice, my internal arts practices. And a lot happened for me out here. These canyons of Sedona became like my birthing place. This was the place I retreated in the late 80s, early 90s, and would just hike out into these canyons by myself and find a place to sit and meditate and just what I call listening to silence. And it was there that my music of the harp came to me. I heard the angels sing. This is a picture of the wind harp. Let me see here. Hold on one second. Okay. It was by meditating in the canyons. Ultimately, what happened to me, I was taken up into the light. And as I was sitting in this supreme silence, I began to hear the subtle strains of some sort of distant music. I thought perhaps somebody was out in the canyons playing a portable stereo with some classical music, but then I realized that wasn't what it was, that I was tuning into something supernatural and of a divine origin. At first it was very faint, but as I tuned into it, it became louder. And all of a sudden I began to hear a celestial music of like nothing I had ever heard before. And I could hear the angelic choirs and the grand symphonic orchestral sounds of the music of the spheres, the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. It was very, very powerful and touched such a deep chord where it made me spontaneously begin to cry. My whole body was shaking. It was very profound. And as I was tuning into the sound, my inner guidance was to trust, surrender, and let go. So I was taken up into the light, and there I beheld a golden sphere of luminous light that was pulsating pure love, like is depicted here in this picture from Gustave Doré from the 1926. He illustrated Dante's writings about all the comings and goings of the higher planes, the battles between dark and light in the angelic realms in the mansion world. So you can see here, this was actually a place I was taken. And I got to stand and see this vista. And sure enough, this luminous sphere of golden light that's pulsating pure love is surrounded by the multitudes of angels. You can see them here. The sound was like nothing I had ever heard, and the feeling was one of just extreme ecstasy and bliss. And the feeling was one of just complete unity and oneness with God's love. Very, very profound. It was definitely a before and after experience, but it was my destiny to be taken here. And this is going on right now in the higher planes. There is this great central sun, perhaps it's called, Paradise Island. There's different names for it. But here you can see another view of the angels just in complete rapture of the light. But ultimately what happened to me was there was a group of angels that I connected with, the cherubs, and here they are depicted in a very kind of early 19th century illustration. And this is how they appeared to me. They were playing harps and flutes and singing this beautiful music. The cherubs are actually a very high order of angels. They exist closest to the throne of God and very pure. You see them, they kind of have these young bodies like babies, but they have these old soul faces, quite profound. Now, as I share these stories about my encounters with the angels, a lot of people think I have a very vivid imagination. I like to show this image right off the bat. This was on a trip to Peru in 2009 and with a small group of friends. And we had spent the night in Lake Titicaca on Amintani Island. And this was the morning after, and I traveled through Peru with a small harp. And these people were very sweet, these native peoples here, the Quechua, I believe. And we're in their kitchen, it's a mud floor, an open fire. And so I began to play my harp to call in some angels for them into their sweet little home here. And my friend took this picture. And then a moment later, here we go. A moment later, this was the next shot that was taken. And here you can see a beautiful, like light-filled angelic being kind of with a rainbow light. I always see it with the head up here, maybe the wings going and kind of almost like a tail, like a mermaid's tail. But yeah, great picture. When I began to play the harp, the angels were my teachers. There was one angel in particular that overshadowed me and would play through me. I would just open myself up as a channel. My hands would move on the strings. It was a very, very strong, energetic experience. And I would go out into the wilderness here of Sedona and carry my small harp out into the forest and just open myself up, just put my hands to the string and my hands began to play. Here's another picture of this circuit I have that goes out the crown chakra. This was taken, I was playing in front of a group. And you can see here, no flash was taken. It just was able to capture the corona around my head on the circuit that I have when I play. And also when I'm speaking with you now, I always have this connection, and this is really the unique circuitry that I bring through here with working with the angels. Now, before music, I had a long history. Ever since I was a teenager, I started making these stained glass mandalas, starting when I was about 17, growing up in California. Here's a few shots in my glasswork. Get a sense of my background here. This was always just made intuitively. I love working with a compass and a ruler. So the ruler is the straight line and the compass is the circular lines. And you can see how the circular would be associated with the feminine energy, the magnetic, and the straight line of the ruler is more masculine. And it's the alchemy blending the two to create a perfect symmetry and balance of the two energies. This one represents the I Ching. This is the 8 trigrams of the I Ching, 5,000 years old, with a flower of life variation here in the center with quartz crystal points. We're going to talk about the I Ching a little bit later on. It's another one of my pieces with the 3 dolphins swimming around a cut crystal in the center. That's a motif I've used quite a bit. You don't see it very often. I inlay my pieces with crystals and gemstones right into the glasswork. So I've always been fascinated by these symmetrical patterns. You know, even before I started working and making these in glass as a teenager, growing up and through elementary school, I can remember when I was bored in class, I would just doodle on my notebook and I would make these starburst patterns. It was like this thing that I've always had with me. And now I sense that it's always been my mission to express that energy and evolve and refine it as I journey through my life. Just a couple more shots of the glass here. There's my workshop in Sedona, my old workshop with up in Uptown with Thunder Mountain in the background. Just a couple more shots here. My son, he loves him too. Oh, what happened? Hey, sorry about that. There he goes. Okay, there he is. And just a few shots of my, I'm going to jump ahead of it here. Hold on 1 second. We'll get back to my artwork and the evolution. Okay, well, we'll just go with it. It's actually pretty cool. So from my stained glass, when I came back in 2012, my angels gave me a download of how to photograph my stained glass mandalas with a kaleidoscopic effect and now create these what's called portals of light. Crystal alchemy portals of light, which I currently have hanging in the galleries here in Sedona. But let me just whip through these. These are all photographs of those stained glass windows with a kaleidoscopic effect, and I manipulate it with my computer, print them out in metallic photo paper now and mount them to wood panels, and I'm layering them with crystals and gems now. So just get a sense for this. These are the crystal alchemy portals of light. Very, very nice, like eye candy. All sorts of coded information. You can see angels and ETs and all sorts of things in these pieces. There's my son sitting in front of him with his crystal ball. Okay, so we're going to get into some of the journey I took to discover this stuff. One of the main things you can see with the similarity with my mandalas that I create with traditional mandalas, like through the yoga tradition. So these are the yantras of yoga, and meditating on these can balance the hemispheres of the brain, can create certain brainwave states, as well as my stained glass can too. So I became very fascinated in this tradition and also the Tibetan tradition of mandalas. You can see here's the Kala Chakra mandala, the Wheel of Time. This is like the master mandala of all of them in the Tibetan tradition. There you see the monks making them out of sand. They were just here in Sedona last week, making a sand mandala. Now this is the Sri Yantra. This is from the Hindu tradition of yoga. This is the Maha Yantra of them all. I've been fascinated by this, as many people are. You often see it tattooed on people and people wearing pendants with this. So if you look on Wikipedia, the description there describes, to scholars, describe this as it's a portal beyond time and space. And this is the master yantra, the master pattern of all the different yantras and geometries of yantra tradition, yantra yoga. This is the main master one. There's a lot of encoded information in here. If you meditate on this and just stare at it, you can see things in it. But what's interesting, and we're gonna look at this deeper. This comes from the tradition of the rishis, which was a sect in India, men, 5,000 years old yogis, ascetics, renunciates, who practiced extreme spiritual disciplines to attain heightened levels of awareness and to attain self-realization and enlightenment. So this actually appeared to the ancient rishis like floating in the air because they were able to access the ethereal realm, just like they did with the Sanskrit language, which is also 5,000 years old and appeared. It's a primal light language, primordial light language. One of the original ones on planet Earth is Sanskrit. And it appeared like a revelation floating in the air to the perceivers, the ancient rishis who was brought through the alphabet of Sanskrit. So this is the Sri Yantra. Just a couple more mandalas here. Then that led me into the understanding of cymatics here and how it relates. Now these are images of it's a liquid medium, and it's a flat surface with a liquid medium, and then they have a speaker underneath with a light, and they play different frequencies through it, and it makes different patterns. So these are just some of the beautiful patterns that the frequencies through this liquid medium will make. Often we see them displayed or performed, demonstrated with sand on steel plates. You see a lot of YouTube videos of this, but this one's unique with the liquid medium. Now, somebody just sent me a text in the last 48 hours with a study about cymatics now, and they're seeing how these sound patterns can actually affect, cellular structure in the human body. So, as Edgar Casey said, the medicine of the future will be that based on the principle of sound and light, but sound specifically. So here we can see, there is some scientists, doctors that have created have figured out the frequency that shatters cancer cells. And so they speak of being able to, for instance, have like a light bulb type of a device that you could have in a room, turn it on, and it will just broadcast this particular frequency. You could get children maybe with leukemia just to hang out in this room being bathed by this luminous frequency of light to heal the cancer. So amazing things coming here in the future. So cymatics, here are three-dimensional standing wave patterns in liquids. So amazing patterns that you can make with frequency. And then we can see the relationship with the crop circles. And I know you have a seminar coming up soon on crop circles. I was lucky enough to go to England 3 years in a row, 2009, 10, and 11. I went in July for a couple of weeks in those 3 years and was able to personally go into many amazing crop circles. And so I've had some firsthand experiences with that, which is amazing. Just a couple shots of the crop circle. So we can see here that like with the study of cymatics, we can see that frequencies create patterns, but on the flip side, patterns can create frequencies. So when you're in these complex patterns of the crop circles, you can definitely feel a frequency there, especially when you're lucky enough to get into one shortly after it happened. Really an amazing experience. So one of the main codes also into, activate codes and open our perceptions is the understanding of the phi ratio and the golden mean. So I call each one of these different sections are kind of like codes. And as you look at these images, just kind of, open your third eye, just let it come in through the optics, and it comes in through the optic nerve and goes into the brain. And these affect us on deep levels. So even after seeing these images tonight, you're dreaming. Things could be happening in your dream time tonight after seeing this. So this is a pattern, of course, we see reflected all through nature, even in the spiraling of our inner ear, how we hear sound. relies on this sacred geometry, this precision of the golden section. And we see it all through nature here. And the ram's horn, and even the spirals of the hurricane, like the one that just hit Louisiana, it spirals through the atmosphere with the same proportion as the smaller things. We can see this was Hurricane Andrew hitting New York a few years back. And we can see there with the overlay of the golden mean, the phi ratio spiral. And the way spiral water flows down the drain is in the same proportion. And the way the galaxies even spiral through space. So this pattern is active on all levels and dimensions. We can see within the physical universe, from the microcosmic to the macrocosmic, from the microscopic to the macrocosmic. And this phi ratio pattern even has been displayed in the crop circles. This one was from 2009, I believe. And this was right across from a government installation radio telescope with 24-hour security right across the street. But you can see here just the phi ratio proportion of all the components of this circle and how they all relate to each other. Everything is phi, phi, phi. Very important pattern to understand. And this is kind of an interesting shot here that relates to this spiral. Why do we see it now? Where I live in Sedona, we have this phenomena of the spiraling juniper trees that you see here, and the cypress trees in the forest. And people will say that it's because in Sedona we have a vortex here, and certainly we have powerful vortexes here. The trees here, we have some really extreme displays of the spiraling motion. But what I discovered with this image, this was put out by NASA a few years ago. And here we can see our sun and our solar system. And this is called the heliosphere, which is this huge electromagnetic field that emanates from the sun and surrounds our whole solar system. And this magnetic pattern moves kind of in this waveform through the electromagnetics of our solar system. So I do believe that these spiraling trees, and also what's led me to, I have crystal stalactites that were 100,000 years old that are quite tall, and you can see they have a spiral motion too. So they've actually captured the spinning of the planet. There's so much spinning that we're living in right now. Imagine, you know, our planet is, even though I sit here in my office and wherever you are, we could seem quite quiet and peaceful and serene and still, yet even within that stillness, there's great movement happening as our planet Earth is spinning on its axis right now at 1,000 miles per hour. And the planet Earth is traveling around the sun in its orbit around the sun at 64,000 miles per hour right now. So just even that alone is great forces of movement here. It's amazing how our brains have the capability to make us feel like we're very still. And then, our sun is on the outer rim of the Milky Way galaxy like this. You know, we're on this outer rim and the whole galaxy is spinning. It's estimated that the Milky Way, the rotation of the Milky Way galaxy with our solar system and our sun out here on one of the outer edges of these arms is spinning at about 100,000 miles per hour, spinning, rotating this great vortex of 200 billion stars. And then the galaxy itself is moving through space. They don't even know. They have no way of measuring how fast because the galaxies are kind of moving apart from each other because we're in an expanding universe. So there's all this incredible movement going on. Now, back to phi, we are encoded with phi. We have the phi ratio encoded throughout our body. And here is a demonstration of that on our hands. And you can see, let me just enlarge this for you. You can see this first section, how it relates to these sections on the finger. And this is a perfect phi ratio, and even the arm. And also, I got to get this image in here. Leonardo's Da Vinci's Dimensions of Man demonstrates this as well. He was aware of that. back then. Then this is an interesting, the phi is related to the Fibonacci sequence, which is a mathematical sequence. And many of the great philosophers have said that the universe is all mathematics. And here we can see how with the golden section and the golden mean of the spiral, that was through geometry. But here in math is the relationship. You can see 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 2, 1 and 1 is 2. 2 and 3 is 5, 5 and 8 is 13, 21 and 34 is 55, and so forth and so on. And this actually makes this arcing spiral a pattern as well. Now here we can see this image I found some time ago. This is the golden spiral, phi ratio. And in geometry, they use these rectangles in geometry in order to find the center of the spiral and to make this perfectly arcing shape that's, you know, related to the seashell growth, but it's also related to our DNA. Our DNA spirals in a phi ratio perfect spiral as well. So we have phi or phi encoded within our DNA. Now, when I saw this, these three circles moving within like a cogs and wheels within one another in order to make this arcing shape of the phi ratio. Well, this reminded me of something. I saw the three circles within each other, like wheels within wheels. And then I remembered the Mayan calendar, and the Mayan calendar of the Tzolk'in with the 13 tones and the 20-day signs actually has three wheels that move in like a cogs in order to calculate time. These are just depictions of the Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar. Here you can see this wheel spirals and moves, rolls inside of this one. Now already here, see, when I look at that, I can see here's a phi ratio spiral in the white area. Well, then I found this video, and I will start. You won't hear the sound, but
way of demonstrating
you can see, or maybe you can hear it.
Or the numbers and day signs
This is a three-dimensional
is by illustrating two cogwheels.
representation
one
of
with 13 tones
13 tones
and the other with the 20-day signs.
and the 20-day signs. And notice
they move one step forward every day.
Moving through space, you can see that spiral pattern
Since
in here.
A number and
right?
A day sign.
Okay, so I'm going to switch over here. So the Mayans, whose timekeeping was the most accurate calendar that we know apparently, is the Mayan calendar. They understood that time is not linear, that it's actually a time spiral. We're living in a time spiral in this field. We already saw it, how galaxies are spinning through space, hurricanes, they all have this movement. So even time, through electromagnetics of time and the planet Earth and our DNA, we're encoded and we're so influenced by this greater spiral, and it's even how our time moves. The ancients understood this, but modern day man still thinks time is linear. Now, this is something I discovered. It's called the disc of Festos. And when I was traveling in Greece on the island of Santorini in 1984 by myself with my backpack, I saw this symbol on a silver pendant in the jewelry store. And as soon as I saw it, it was like I recognized it. And I asked the jewelry guy, I said, what is that? And he said, that's called the disc of Festos. And I learned that it was discovered in a temple on Crete, Temple of Festos. But what's interesting about this, what I later found, I write about this in my book, Hearing the Angels Sing. So I bought a silver pendant and wore it around my neck. And a few months later, maybe 4 months later, I was wearing it. It was in the winter time. I was in Aspen. And we were celebrating the winter festival in January. I skied down the mountain with a torchlight. Me and my friend, we ate some magic mushrooms. This is like 1985, or later in 1984. And when we got down, we decided to go for a drive up into the mountains, he and I. And we got out under the stars. And I looked up into the night sky. And I was tripping pretty good. And And my buddy just kind of went off. We went off in our own space, and nobody around, and the stars were just so luminous. And as I looked up there, right directly above me was the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades constellation. And I looked at it immediately, there was like a circuit to my third eye, and something came over me, told me to spin. So I began spinning in place, and all of a sudden the stars above me started to swirl in the night sky, with the Pleiades right in the direct center as I was focusing my gaze on that. And then all of a sudden, it just expanded, this flash of light kind of thing. And there it was in the night sky, was the disk of Festos, exactly like you're seeing here, was like by starlight. It was a hologram illuminated like a luminous starlight was in a holographic image in the night sky. And I was told that this was an ancient star map left by our star brothers and sisters a long time ago as a map home or something like this. I was like, wow, it was a really profound experience. Well, some years later, 20 years later, I was researching it, writing my book around 2011. I discovered the work of a Dr. Watson, I think, a woman who actually decoded this. And sure enough, this is a star map, and there's different constellations represented in here. And it's quite profound. I can, maybe if you reach out to me, we can take a look at that. I can send you the information. Okay, so here's some other images of the spirals. I'm gonna start moving through here. This is in Arizona, right near where I live. The spiral is very important even to the ancient indigenous people, the first peoples of North America, of Turtle Island. We see this symbol carved on rocks and stone walls all over North America. It's believed to be the symbol of migration of the native peoples, something to have to do with that, but obviously very important. And also not only Native Americans, but here is, this is the entryway to LaGrange in Scotland. It's a tomb, 4,000 years old. And here we can see spirals, both directions were carved into this rock. Very important. There's a close-up of it. Here's the spiral of Norway, just a little side note here. This appeared in the sky above Oslo, Norway, the day before Obama went there to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. And it was believed at the time that this was a symbol from Galactic Federation, that, you know, it was, I don't know, maybe this blue ray, it looks like a, you know, Archangel Michael's sword, who knows, but it was quite a phenomenon that appeared there. There's another shot of it. Okay, let me just move through these. Some more ancient hieroglyphs. Now this one I love. This is one of my favorite petroglyphs. This is from Arizona. Here you see the spiral up here. And then underneath you see the people here. Look, they're holding hands. And to me, look, they're wearing headdresses. So they're very festive. They're celebrating. It must be festival or ceremony of some sort. But they're holding hands and they're going up, up and away. You can see they kind of up and away. And there is some theories that, you know, why did the ancient people vacate their ancient ruin sites here? And there are some people that believe that perhaps in ancient times a Stargate portal opened up and they made their ascension. So I thought this is quite a representation of perhaps just that. Now here is a wonderful crop circle with the spiral shape again. This one I was lucky enough to go into, and you can see there's some people here, so you can get your scale and size. It's quite large, but you walk in this way and you walk this direction out and then over this side, boy, and you come out the other end, you've really, you've been spinning both ways. It's a really cool sensation. Now, one of the other codes and patterns, of course, that is most important to have an understanding of is that of the hexagon. And here we see it with the honeycomb of the bee, the masters of the nectar of the flower. And this one I love. So we look at this, we could see the bee on the hexagon shaped honeycomb, and we can see the relationship to that with this, with the flower of life geometry. Now, come on, let me have the. Anyway, this is a hologram. So you can just stare at this and meditate on this and gaze upon it softly and allow your eyes to just kind of relax. And then it will actually, after a short period of time, it'll start to move. And then you'll start to see different layers within it. Well, I was doing this one day, and then all of a sudden I began to see all these pyramids in it, triangular pyramid shapes. See if you can see that. So you can see these straight lines going up here and then going down here, all these pyramids, pyramids within pyramids. This pattern of the flower of life is made with a compass only. It's all interconnected concentric circles. So it's in the Egyptian mystery schools, it comes from the right eye of Horus mystery schools, which is known to be the feminine teachings. And so here, but within it, I was so intrigued. I was seeing all these pyramids in here. And all of a sudden I received the coding that it was related to the Sri Yantra. Now here is a more traditional image of the Sri Yantra. And it is believed that this has within it 9 interconnected pyramid shapes. And you can see all the pyramids. Okay, so here I'm seeing, all these pyramids going through here. And now that reminded me here, I was led to go here. Now, by the way, if you look at the central pyramid or tetrahedron shape here, what I was shown is you can see coming off of this point here, then pulls around and actually spirals out. There's actually a spiral within all of these straight lines, a curved spiral. You have to look at it in a certain way, and this will begin to open up to you, and you'll see it 3-dimensionally. It's fascinating. Okay, so then I found this image. I was led to discover this image, which is this is a 3-dimensional representation of the Sri Yantra. This was a form that's known as the vector equilibrium, which was coined and brought through by Buckminster Fuller, the famous scientist who wrote Critical Path and was the inventor of the geodesic dome, and known kind of like the Leonardo of America, incredible genius, Buckminster Fuller. But here's this 3-dimensional form that's like the Sri Yantra in 3D form. And they took a light and shined it straight down through this 3-dimensional form that's all straight line tetrahedral, and the reflection on the ground is the flower of life, all circles down here. So, wow, isn't that amazing? So just that alone, this is one of the most powerful keys to this whole presentation, is to see how these two forms relate, how actually everything has an opposite, an equal and opposite. Everything has the other side of the coin, so to speak. So here's a beautiful display of that phenomenon right here. This alone is a key to shifting your perceptions. So as you start to see lines and forms in front of you, they can reveal other things that are perhaps hidden out of view, but coming into view from other planes of reality. Now that led me to this correlation here. And a lot of, as I was bringing this through, I was tuning into my angels. They were wanting me to bring through this presentation for you now. One of the things I'm able to do is to synthesize multiple thought streams and wisdom traditions and kind of show the unifying principle behind all of them. So here, before we were just looking here now. So the flower of life, its relationship to the Sri Yantra, how this has within it a spiral, and then the 3-dimensional form of the vector equilibrium reflecting the flower of life. Then I was led here. This is a diagram of the atomic structure of quartz crystal. And on the left-hand side, we have what's known as the A-axis. So if you were to hold a crystal point in your hand, like I've got one right here, a beautiful one. And if I look straight down the crystal, the atomic structure, the bonding, atomic bonding is like this. This is on a subatomic level. The atoms of the crystal of quartz, silicon, bond like this. So this is showing the star tetrahedron and the flower of life hexagonal pattern in its bonding. And like you can see even spherical forms within it. So very kind of feminine down the A-axis of quartz. And then when you look sideways through the crystal, directly through, and looking at the atomic bonding structure there, you see this. And so here again, we can see a tetrahedral forms, pyramids within pyramids, very similar to the Sri Yantra. So here on the left, the atomic bonding is displaying, portraying the flower of life patterning, the magnetic aspect, and then here, electric of the atomic bonding with the bonded tetrahedrons of what is quartz. That is why quartz is so, we love crystal so much, because this is like a key on the atomic structure. Quartz is like an interface, allows us to interface. We can interface with quartz. And even as quartz grows in that phi ratio spiral, okay? Our hand has the phi ratio spiral encoded in it. So this was something that was brought to me a while back. I will show you. And let's say you have a quartz crystal. You want to work with your quartz crystal. Here's a nice one, the Lemurian Mist. And what you do is you just spin it around in your hand until you find where it just fits perfectly. Okay, like I just found it on this one. And that's because the phi ratio of my hand has overlapped and interfaced perfectly with the phi ratio structure of the quartz. And when you find that, that's the way you hold your power crystal and for healing or meditation, and you'll interface with it through that coding of the phi ratio. Okay, pretty cool. So then, of course, we see this hexagonal shape in the structure of water, which Dr. Emoto, his teachings of the water crystals, so powerfully brought to light for all of us around, I think around the year 2000, turn of the century. And we can see the relationship with the hexagonal crystalline pattern of water, and we're 98% water in our body. So we're crystalline in nature. And you can see that even the way that atoms bond with electrons on the atomic level. Patterns. Oh, so this is interesting. Here's that, we're back to this hexagon shape again. Oh, anyway, it's not letting me enlarge this picture, but this is the bottom of Saturn. And you can see there's a hexagon on the bottom of Saturn. That's the infrared picture of it. There's some sort of vortex on the bottom of the planet, creating a giant hexagonal pattern. Now, this is another code. Of course, this is moving in both directions, the sunflower pattern. And what does that remind us of? That reminds us of this pattern here, which is known as the tube torus. This is a very important energetic pattern in which a field of energy in which we live. So the electromagnetic of the Earth, the north and south pole of planet Earth, has a tube torus around the whole planet. And then we ourselves exist in an electromagnetic polarity in our body. So to become aware of this is to start to perceive the subtle patterns even we exist in every moment, every day around us. Now, these patterns were displayed in the crop circles. It's my understanding that the ETs, the circle makers, you know, the teachings, the information encoded in crop circles covers every subject from astrophysics to biology to anatomy to neurology, to cosmology and astronomy. All these subjects are brought through in the crop circles. Now, just a little disclaimer here, it's my belief that we haven't had any really profound crop circles since 2012. And when I was there, one of the main people received a message that the true circles would stop in the year 2012 at the end of the Mayan calendar. So we have not had anything profound of detail and multidimensional realities like the circles that were appearing at this time in the early 2000s and late 1990s. But this pattern, this energetic pattern, is even coming through in the crop circles. How beautiful is that? Imagine that. Really amazing. Now here's another correlation that's very interesting, as we were talking about how quartz interfaces and how we interface with all these things. The facets on quartz, all the facets on your quartz crystal always grow to 52 degrees, okay? 52-degree angle, always. So like here, this crystal, this top here, all these facets are always 52 degrees on quartz crystal. Well, here's an interesting correlation. The angle of the Great Pyramid in Egypt, which I have been lucky enough to go and see firsthand, this too is 52 degrees. And also there's lots of sandstone with high levels of silicon in here, just like is found in quartz. So, you know, the pyramids kind of like on a quantum level, energetically, there's a lot of silicon dioxide in there that acts like quartz. And here's something you probably didn't know. Just like this is in the south of the equator, quartz crystal grows with a left-hand spiral. And north of the equator, crystal grows the other way. Just like here in North America, the water spins down the drain going to the right. But when you go down to Australia and flush the toilet, it spins the opposite direction down the drain. This is all because of the electromagnetics between north and south hemispheres and planet Earth. Let's see. Okay, bypass. We already saw that. Now let's get into some sound stuff here. This is really cool. Let's look at this. So these are sound waves traveling through three-dimensional space, and these are the forms they make as they travel through space. Sound waves. Then you can look at that, and you can see here with the Om symbol, which was brought through by the ancient rishis 5,000 years ago. Now, this is just a still shot of a sound wave moving through space and time. Now, this is Sanskrit. This is ancient Hindu Sanskrit. And this is the Sanskrit alphabet, which was brought through by the rishis, again, 5,000 years ago. So one of the 5 primordial light languages that were received in revelation and received in like spiritual vision at the dawning of civilization and mankind. So one day I was in my yoga class and they had this poster of the Sanskrit alphabet on the wall. And then I got into downward dog and I was looking at this poster upside down. So this is right side up, but when I looked at it, looking between my legs, it looked like this. And what I saw, if you just look at this, notice how Sanskrit, this way looks like a yoga pose. Look at this beautiful back bend. Here's foot up, the body and the arm and the head. You can see different yoga poses within the Sanskrit alphabet. So yoga poses came through spontaneously as ecstatic expressions of some sort of Shakti Kundalini, higher vibrational spiritual light energy that came through the ancient yogis. And so you can see when you practice mantra yoga with the sounds and learning Sanskrit and the mantras, and how the relationship between that and the Sanskrit alphabet. And as you see, like here, we're looking at it in a certain way, but how I was saying earlier that everything has a flip side. So here's a demonstration of that. If we just change our perspective, then we can see things differently. So this is one of the dilemmas of our mind and our brain, the way we perceive our reality, that we're always, through random association, our thought process, we're always analyzing and trying to decipher something as bad or good, right or wrong. But this is often keeping us bound in kind of a dichotomy, in dualistic ways of thinking. So the practice of yoga and these techniques was to unify the consciousness so that we can transcend our limiting perceptions of duality, which keeps us separate, right? So here again, we can see how Sanskrit and yoga are actually one and the same, just expressing differently. Okay, now here's the Tibetan Sanskrit language. This is another light language, one of the primordial light languages, along with Hebrew, which appeared to the ancient Kabbalists thousands of years ago in the fire letters. And then also Chinese. Chinese is one of the primordial original languages on Earth. That's Tibetan Sanskrit. And that leads us into the, this is Greek. Greek as well. Greek as well. And then we get into the angelic alphabet, the Enochian alphabet. This is the Enochian alphabet of the angels. These are the codes and letters and the sigils that we use in order to do incantations and evocations, and I guess some people use them to create magical spells. But of course, we work with the angels of the light. We don't want to call in dark angels to do our bidding for us. Otherwise, that's called black magic. This is a tetragrammatron using the angelic alphabet in these harmonic patterns in order to create magical, do magic. So you can see how even in these traditions, these sound and symbols, very important. Okay, let's look a little bit more of harmonics here. So here we see the fundamental is in red. This is like middle C. And you can see how the different harmonics vibrate through sympathetic resonance. So like on my harp, if I pluck a C string, all the other C strings vibrate with it. Theoretically, all the way up to beyond our range of hearing and below our range of hearing. So here's some illustrations of how sound harmonics move through three-dimensional time and space. So coming into these understandings, we can begin to realize the power of our word and the power of our voice through our languaging, and also through our singing, using our voice for healing, that our sounds can vibrate up into these higher harmonics all the way to infinity. Now, with sound, are the dimensions harmonically arranged according to the laws of musical proportion? Well, that could be. Now, interesting correlation here is that we have 7 chakras in our body, the 7 lower chakras, and that corresponds to the 7 notes of the musical scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then also the 7 colors of the rainbow. But we also have higher chakras, which we'll get into a little bit later, and that could be in esoteric teachings. It's believed that we have 5 additional chakras that are outside the body, above the head, going up in a vertical axis above us. So those 5 higher chakras can relate to the five sharps and flats on a keyboard. So there's a total of 12 chakras and 12 notes to the chromatic scale. So here's a couple more shots showing the harmonic structure of the musical scales. Move through this here. The reverberation of harmonics, sound throughout time and space creates these patterns. Now, interesting, astrology, the study of the planetary harmonics, is really what the astrology is. So harmonics are very important to reading the planets. And also what's interesting, even in the stock market, this is the US dollar index in a 24-hour period, and we can see patterns within this. And there are some of the most successful analysts, of the stock market, predictively are able to chart patterns within the charts and see harmonic patterns moving through actually the stock charts. And some advisors, financial advisors, actually use the Fibonacci sequence and that's golden mean spiral to analyze the charts and to see patterns within the stock market. Pretty interesting. Now, this is the Temple of Sound in Saqqara outside of Egypt. And I took this picture. I was there in 2006. This is the main entryway. And this is an interesting temple here because it's not symmetrical, the left side and the right side. Here's the main entrance. And notice here, this is a very tall pillar to the left, but on the right, it's much lower. And we can see all these kind of chiseled edge here. And we can see it on the left too. So there's a definite, distinct pattern on the left and one on the right. Very interesting what was going on here. Here we are looking at the main entrance. Now, the Egyptians were very, very multidimensional. They were obviously very tuned in to different dimensions and states of being. But we can see how going into this main temple entrance at Saqqara is like going into a portal. It's a dimensional portal when you step into this doorway here. And then you go through the doorway and you walk through the colonnade and then you come out in the grand plaza here. And I was with a group of 20 of us and I was with my harp and we had a private visit to this location, just our group. And here on the right is the Temple of Sound. And there's these three giant pillars here. It's very interesting. Notice these faceted sides coming down. It's on all three of them. And this was the main feature of the Temple of Sound. Wonder what they meant. I was lucky enough to be able to get up there and play my harp. It was about 106 degrees, I think, when we were there, super hot. But nonetheless, it was the sound and the sonic kind of experience playing my harp in here was really cool. It's bouncing all around off of these stone walls. So I was fascinated by these patterns here. It's almost like a musical scale. And this one is different than this one. And the third is different from the other two. So what is these proportions that they etched into the rock here, carved into the rock? Seems significant to me. And then I saw this and it reminded me of that. This is this famous crop circle that has been decoded and the phi ratio has been found all through it. But what I was told by the circle makers when I was going to the crop circles in 2009, 10, 11, and studying this was that this was a display. This is all phi ratio here with the way the three spheres relate to each other. But what I was told is this is like a kind of showing, it's like a dimensional portal. And like, this is the analyst. So sure enough, lots of phi ratio in this circle. But what I was told is that the ETs now, their spacecraft travel at superluminal speeds. I love this word, superluminal, superluminal. That means faster than the speed of light. And the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. Okay, so what's interesting now, think about this. If we had a spaceship that traveled at the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles in 1 second. If we had a craft went that fast, to travel from one end of our own Milky Way galaxy to the other side, because our galaxy is 100,000 miles across, 100,000 light years, 100,000 light years across the Milky Way in which we live. Well, if our craft was traveling at the speed of light, it would take 100,000 years to travel from one end of our galaxy to the other. Well, obviously, that's not fast enough. So what I was told was that this is showing a diagram of how these light ships are able to make these hyperleaps. This is like a record spinning on a platter. And the idea is to get to the center. Well, you can see, look how they've drawn these lines on all these faceted parts. These are all kind of hyperjump spots. So they can link from here on the timeline, because it's a time spiral. As we already went through, we live in a time spiral. So the beings, these great galactic beings, they understand that, and they are able to move on the timeline doing these hyper jumps. So they're going faster than the speed of light. They can bend time by this technique, okay? I don't know all the specifics about it, but something like this. Now, when you review the Billy Meier information, Billy Meier is the most famous and extensive contactee by the Pleiadians. He lives in Switzerland, he's still alive, but in the early 1970s, he started having contact with the Pleiadians, who woke him up in the middle of the night and directed him to get on his motorcycle and bring his camera and video camera and go out in the mountains, and he'd set up, and then the craft would appear. And you can see the Billy Meier photos and videos on YouTube or on the internet. Pretty amazing, but he was in contact with the Pleiadians. And what they told him is that the Pleiadians can travel in their light ships from the Pleiades to Earth, and it takes them 8 minutes, apparently. 8 minutes to go from Pleiades to Earth in their beam ships. So obviously they're moving faster than the speed of light. They're superluminal in their capabilities. So this is a key for us. Now, here's a chart of the light spectrum in which we live. I like this one better. Let's look at this one. So here's the visible light spectrum in which we live. But look, above us is ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays, and slower down is infrared and radio waves going down the other way. So you can see humans are here, and then going up this way, as we go up into these higher and higher frequencies and intensities of light, is where we find, bacterium, virus, atoms, and atomic nuclei. Get smaller and smaller. So point being is that we're only seeing in this very narrow bandwidth with our eyes. We're not seeing, there's all of this hidden stuff in frequencies below and above, just like we only hear in a very small bandwidth of frequency that are perceptible to our ears, like we know that dogs can hear those high-pitched sounds from a mile away. So point being is that our senses, our physical senses, are very limited in our perceptions. Now, of course, when we take psychedelics or plant medicine, things like that, we can expand our senses and we can start to perceive into the more subtle realm. And we can use this as a tool to expand our senses quite powerfully. Now, what's happening right now, my understanding is that our DNA is being illuminated by an influx of high intensity galactic light. So cosmic rays are coming into the planet at very high levels right now. We have a weakening magnetic field of the Earth right now. The magnetic field of the Earth protects us from the solar wind and solar flares and cosmic rays. But because the Earth's magnetic field is weakening right now, it's allowing more cosmic rays to interpenetrate into the biosphere of where we live. And we are being affected by this incoming cosmic rays. It's affecting our DNA. Now, our DNA is awakening. It's stimulated. It's a harmonic in structure. Harmonic in structure. Now, interesting side note, just last week, I was at a concert here in Sedona where this musician had a machine from Domenhor, Italy, from the community there, where he's able to clip on these electrodes onto a plant. And the electromagnetic impulses coming off the leaf of a plant will go into this machine and they'll play a synthesizer and create sound. So it was the first time I heard this extensive plant concert of a rose bush. It was amazing, and it was fractal-like in nature, the sound and the structure of it. But it actually now, as I'm looking at this DNA and the way I was explaining it the night of the concert, I see that perhaps the plants and their music is very fractal-like our DNA is fractal in nature, but it is harmonic in nature. Now, this is an interesting thing here. See, here we are looking down, straight down a strand of DNA, okay? So we can see the structure of that, and it is reminiscence of something we've also been looking at. So looking at that and then looking down, here it is, the flower of life. So we have DNA, our DNA looks like this, looking straight down the spiral, and then looking straight on, like at the flower of life, which also is reminiscence of looking straight down the A-axis of a quartz crystal. It's the same pattern, one and the same. So here's some more views of what DNA looks like. And here's showing the chemical bonding of the amino acids in DNA. So I was studying this. My angels were like, look at this, study this now. So I was looking at this and I was just taking it in. And I'm always trying to see patterns and things, looking for patterns, correlation. Okay. There's another diagram of the chemical bonding of the glutamine and the cytosine of these amino acids in DNA. There we go. Nitrogenous bases. Okay. So that reminded me, I was looking at this and then I was like, gosh, I see something in there. And then I looked at this. This is the Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar, the 260-day count of the Tzolk'in. Okay. Interesting correlation. Okay, 260 days in the Mayan calendar. Also 260 days in the orbit of Venus around our sun. And also it's 260 days is 9 months. It's the time of gestation from a human being, from conception till birth is on average 260 days. Very interesting. So our DNA in the codons of chemical bonding, there are 64 different combinations of bonding that happen in DNA. Okay. Now, as I was looking at here, the Tzolk'in, they're like, look at this, look at this. And then what I saw was this black line here and this one here represents a strand of DNA. You can see it moves through even this harmonic that's encoded in our DNA, moves through the Tzolk'in of the Mayan calendar. It's like two strands of DNA, and you can see the two sides. So it's definitely yin yang, it's electromagnetic. It's a field. It's a field. It's all in the field. You have to understand the concept of the field, the energetic field in which we live. It's a quantum field. So here's DNA again. We're going to get back to that. But then we have channels that are awakening as our you know, the idea is to turn on our systems. All systems go right now. We're doing everything we can to activate our internal systems in our nervous system, in our brains, in our nervous system, in our chakras, all through our nadis, the subtle energetic lines. But most of us, you know, we're still learning to master the 7 lower chakras, okay? And bring these into balance and harmony. And there's different ways we can clear the chakras. So we have Ida and Pingala are the 2 electromagnetic. One's magnetic, one's electric. And there's a flow and circuit of energy. The central channel is called Shushumna. So the idea is to clear the central channel, clear your central channel. But many of us have blocks in the central channel. We're holding a lot of emotional pain and trauma and imprints in our nervous system, in our central channel that need to be cleared. So you have to do your deep healing work, your emotional release, heal your inner child, and heal all that deep stuff and let that clear out. And then we can have a free flow of energy up Shushumna and awaken the Kundalini. And then once these, you know, these lower chakras are balanced and harmonic, then we can really open up to receive the galactic light and go for full activation here coming in now. So let's tie this in now with the I Ching. This is, these are the 8 trigrams of the I Ching, came from the time of Lao Tzu, 5,000 years ago. It's an oracle. It's a harmonic module like the Mayan calendar and like our DNA. That's why this system, this oracle is so profound, magical, is because it's totally encoded and harmonic with our own DNA. So here's showing the 8 trigrams combines in 64 different combinations, just like there's 64 combinations in our DNA for chemical bonding to create different codes in our DNA. So here we see the red, see there's this red pattern moving through here, and then the green makes a pattern. There's like this X pattern that moves through the numbers based on the correlations with the trigrams. So that, and that relates to this. I don't know if I can show you this. Let me see if I can find it for you. Let me just get out of here. I have this thing on here. I'm sorry, okay, I don't have it pulled up. I'm gonna come back here. So write this down. It's called Benjamin Franklin's Magic Squares. And for those who do not know, Ben Franklin, our founding father, was a true mystic. He was an alchemist. And he created something called the magic squares. And these are what they look like. And there's these patterns of that move through the magic squares. And I believe they equal 260. Like the Mayan calendar and like the orbit of Venus. So there's this correlation, and there's animations of his magic square. Here's an image. So here we can see, notice again, the correlation here with the red pattern. See this like pyramid shape that moves through this numerical grid. Okay, it's very similar to the I Ching. We can see once again, this is a numerical grid as well. And there's these same patterns in this and also in this. So they're very much related harmonically. And then here with the Mayan calendar, these are all numbers, and these are correlations with this black part. And you can see this is that same pyramid shape that moves through these correlations and connections in the numbers of the Mayan pyramid. So they're all related. So here we have, this is called the fruit of life. Okay, this is part of the flower of life. So the very center is called the seed of life. And this outer part included is called the fruit. This is the fruit of life. Now, the Kabbalah is known as the tree of life. So here we can see the Kabbalah tree of life lays perfectly on top of the fruit of life. So here we have the seed, the fruit, and the tree of life, all harmonically, perfectly overlaying. All of these things interrelate. It's called the law of correspondences. Correspondence. So we see these patterns on the microscopic. Now this is very interesting. Let's check this out. This is cell mitosis. So we can see here how all of these patterns are encoded within our cellular structure. This is the egg before, right after fertilization. And then within minutes, a chain reaction happens and cell mitosis, cell division starts to happen. This is how all humans are formed, including you and I. We all went through this pattern of development at the moment of conception. So here are the first 8 cells of a human. Enlarge that for you. It's not letting me. Okay. This is the first 8 cells of a human being. You were in this form at one point, as I was. And apparently these 8 cells are still kind of, the location would be at the bottom of our spine. So we can see the relationship with the first 8 cells of a human being with that of the fruit of life, the seed and the fruit of life. It's one and the same. And we can see how that relates to atomic structure. These are the patterns that are woven into the very fabric of who we are. And when you can begin to recognize this in yourself and in your meditations and start to explore your inner terrain, drop down into the subatomic level of yourself, and you start to perceive and seek out and see these patterns within yourself, then of course, you'll start to see them in the external world, and you will be well on your way of unifying your perceptions. So this is farther along. This is called a zygote, I believe. And I think there are 16 cells here or more. But we can see how this pattern of a human being within the first few hours relates to more of the flower of life pattern. So point being is that we all emerge out of the flower of life pattern. Humans unfurl. We're rolled over in a spiral when we are the fetus, but then as we grow, we kind of open up, just like flowers and crystals and everything. This is a dolphin fetus, very, very much like us. It's got little hands, fingers. So we see this flower of life pattern throughout nature, of course. And within encoded in that is the tectonic solids. These are the building blocks. We're going to run through this here pretty quickly now. So just take it all in. So when you combine, these are the 5 forms, they all nest inside one another. And when you put these 5 tectonic solids together, tetrahedron, octahedron, cube, icosahedron, and dodecahedron, they all nest one inside of the other. And when you connect that, when you do that and connect the lines, they make this pattern, which is known as Metatron's cube. Very powerful electromagnetic pattern to work with, has a very strong effect on our perceptions. Okay, now this I originally put together in 2011 in preparation for 2012, which was our last solar maximum from the sunspot cycle. That was cycle 24. Well, now we're entering in, we've entered in over the last 2-3 months into solar cycle 25. Okay, so our sun now is going off. So I was saying our electromagnetic field of the earth is weakening, and that's a scientific fact. And when the shield of our magnetic field is weakening, that allows more cosmic rays to come in, and also more light from the sun or star. So, you know, we're in another sunspot cycle right now. I have my solar telescope, and I am able to view the sun on a daily basis. I connect in. I want to recommend, if you go to get the sign up at spaceweather.com, you can get the app, and they will send you text messages right after a solar flare has gone off on the sun. And it's really cool. So I get a ping on my phone shortly after one of these huge solar flares, like you see depicted here. This is called a solar prominence, and it's arcing off the sun. That's up about 100,000 miles off the surface of the sun. This is solar plasma. But when these solar flares explode, they send solar plasma through space, the supercharged particles. So here's an article. This was from 2019. See, Earth is being pummeled by cosmic rays after the sun's face turned ominously blank. So yeah, science is confirming and telling us that we are being subject to higher and higher amounts of cosmic rays, supercharged particles coming from deep space. Cosmic rays come from deep space, not our sun. They come from exploding supernova, some distant place in the universe. And these are supercharged particles. And these stimulate our DNA. We'll talk more about this. So the sun right now is in its sunspot cycle. It's getting active. It's starting to spit at us and send, you know, supercharged particles, electrons and photons towards us. Now, I love this image. You know, what we are to do is to open up to receive the sun. Our sun is really the main driver, the main evolutionary driver for us, and has within it the coded information on all the different harmonic wavelengths of light emanating from our sun. These photons coming from the sun are passing right through us at superluminal speeds, faster than the speed of light. So even when we're sitting right here, photons coming from our sun are passing through our body, coming through the walls of the house and passing through our body right now as we're sitting here. So just take a moment and tune into that. These photons are carrying information, harmonic information that interacts with our DNA. And it's telling our DNA to wake up, wake up, wake up your DNA. So I love this image. It shows our star, and this is Homo luminous. Here's planet Earth. And we can see how this being is awakening. Look how the light particles, supercharged light particles, are stimulating the DNA, turning on our nervous system, our chakra system, and illuminating our Merkaba, our light body, our fifth dimensional light body, so that we can evolve as a species to what some people call Homo luminous, where we're turning into more luminous beings of light. Now, what's interesting as this light is coming in, it's also stimulating parts of our brain, because neurologists tell us that we only use a very small portion of our brain. Perhaps 5% the average human is using of its brain capacity in everyday tasks. And genius is just a small amount more than that, a small percentage more. But as we're receiving these light codes, it's also stimulating our brain. So the neurologists say that 90% of our brain is dormant. 80 to 90%. That's what they call gray matter. They don't really know what it's for, but it's just kind of dormant brain material. And that corresponds to our DNA. Geneticists now have mapped the genome, and they tell us that they've only figured out what, I don't know, 15, 20% of what the DNA is for. The remaining 80% is what they call junk DNA. So our DNA is dormant. We have gray matter in our brain. The majority of our brain is dormant. And then even in our nervous system, we're not even using the full capacity of our nervous system and our endocrine glandular system. Our glandular system, our endocrine system, has the ability to make even more refined. Everything has a chemical component made by the body in the glandular system. So every emotion has a chemical correlate that that's released by our endocrine glandular system. And that's why we feel intense feelings, because we're having a chemical cascade of chemicals coming through our bloodstream that all correspond to different emotional states and different states of being. So like the great masters and yogis and saints, as you ascend and you activate more systems within your body and you move to higher and higher levels of illuminated awareness, spiritual awareness, that the glandular system begins to secrete more highly refined chemicals into the body, which could be known as amrita, like nectar of the gods. And you can move into states of extreme bliss and ecstasy by the release of these highly supercharged endorphins that are stimulated by doing certain activities like yoga, meditation, chanting, different things. So the brain is being turned on, our pineal and pituitary glands are coming online for the higher functioning of the brain. In the neural net of the brain, neuroplasticity is stimulated. That stimulates neurogenesis, if you're not familiar with these words. So neuroplasticity and the neural net in the brain is how we process light information. We want to keep these pathways in the brain supple and flexible. Generally, as we get older, they get hard and more rigid and we're not able to learn anymore. So the idea is we want to stimulate neuroplasticity by doing certain activities, and also neurogenesis, the creation of new neurons in the brain. So as we do our practices, neurogenesis occurs and our brain is able to create new pathways to process light information that is carrying, high frequency codes, harmonic codes that are stimulating, the DNA to awaken our dormant systems, and that our perceptions can come fully online. Now, perhaps this is related to the opening of the seventh seal in the book of Revelation. It's kind of a collective crown chakra opening, and there will be a collective unification. But of course, we have to do it all ourselves at first. We work deeply on ourselves to clear ourselves, to raise our vibration so that we can become more harmonically aligned and become more luminous beings of light that is totally harmonic with the sacred geometrical patterns of the cosmos and all dimensions. We are fully encoded with these patterns in our DNA. So we awake and we realize the true nature of who we are as encoded beings of light, that we have access to these higher dimensions. There's a saying, knock and the door shall be opened unto you. So with a sincere heart and right intention, clear intention, we can gain access to the higher planes. I love this image of the woman, and she's looking up through her crown chakra and seeing the sacred geometrical patterns and codes, receiving the light coming down, illuminating her heart with God's love, the divinity, awakening to our own divinity, releasing shame and guilt, sin, unworthiness. For the master code, God's fingerprint and original primordial coding exists within the very core of who you are, of who we are, and we awaken to our true nature. This one I like as your perceptions change, we're becoming illuminate beings. We can see the illuminate DNA here, and we're out in the cosmos where the birth of stars takes place. All systems online are turning on. The nadis, the subtle energy lines are opening to carry higher and higher levels of light energy through your nervous system so that you can vibrate higher and higher. Continuously purifying our consciousness. And we begin to ring like a bell. And that's called like the atonement. Like you attain a certain level, and it's like that Christ consciousness or Holy Spirit can touch you, and all of a sudden there's like can touch you and you ring like a tuning fork. It's the atonement. At one-ment, atonement. You ring with a new frequency. People begin to see you differently. People say, you look different. There's all this light coming off of you. There's all this joy coming off of you. I feel your love because you're vibrating higher and more pure and you're harmonic. Now, one of the things we can focus on here is with all these geometrical patterns, this is the star tetrahedron of the Merkaba. And as you sit in your meditation, you can begin to see these two interlocking tetrahedrons creating the star tetrahedron around you. It's already encoded within your DNA. This is a fail-safe mechanism that was already put in place. God gave you this technology. This is like magnificent superpower God technology that we have for exactly this time on the evolutionary journey of man along the time-space continuum. Right now, with everything that's going on, this is our time as light workers and luminous beings of light to activate the code. So the Merkaba, which means spirit, light, body, is consciousness. It's made out of pure consciousness, right? So we can interface with it and we can activate it and we can become one with our Merkaba, our light body. It's the light vehicle to carry our consciousness up into the higher dimensions. So when you're in your meditations, you can begin to visualize this, and you can actually just talk to it and say, activate light body, just inside, talking to yourself, calling forth your higher self, and sending forth your intention right into your own DNA, which is listening to you constantly, and say, activate fifth dimensional light body. Activate fifth dimensional light body. Aligning with Christ consciousness, I am that I am, the rainbow body of light. Activate the Merkaba. Activate my fifth dimensional light body. And just declare and command, this is your divine birthright. It is there waiting for you. So take possession of your fifth dimensional Merkaba, your light body. It is there for you. It is a technology that is there for you at this time. So you get in your Merkaba light body, and then you get your wings, and then you can start to travel. Notice there's always a rainbow around here. It's the rainbow body of light. Just like in Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about the rainbow body of light when you attain high levels of awareness. And just like the saints, the biblical saints and the great art of antiquity, the biblical art, you always see saints and angels with rainbow halos around their head. So you want to look for the rainbow light wherever you can now, looking for the higher luminous, the iridescent octaves of the rainbow light as your perceptions become more, you're able to perceive into the more subtle realms of sound and light. Another image of the Merkaba. I love to work with these images and just meditate on them. They pulsate kind of harmonic frequencies that we can pick up through our optic nerve, and it travels directly into the pineal pituitary gland and brings those codes, those harmonic frequencies right through the eyes into the brain. It's very, very powerful. That's why they meditate on the yantras in the monasteries to affect consciousness. And that will open us up to, fifth dimensional perceptions. We will start to see into God, into the mind of God. And the seventh seal will be opened unto thee, and you can enter in, and then you can perceive jeweled worlds, all sorts of celestial visions. We really become quantum human beings at that point. And we're perceiving into the quantum realms. And what's cool is when you become a harmonic being of light, you've worked on yourself, you've dedicated to your own awakening, and you're shifting your vibration. And then when the timing is right, you will draw forth to you, just through the law of harmonics, a person that is in alignment with you, and you can share new levels of connection and unification with one another, deep intimacy, through just on an energetic vibratory level, with a full chakra experience, not just lower chakra connection, but all cylinder connection. That's a wonderful experience. And I hope that you get to experience if that's what you're calling forth in your life. Thank you so much. I want to raise that up. I'm giving it to me. Sorry. Okay. I love all these images. You were going to say something, Neil?
No, I'm just, do you have to leave in 4 minutes still? Because we have some questions. It's up to you.
Okay, let's
What you
take
want to
some
do.
questions. Let me just finish. I'm almost done. Give me a minute here. Actually, I have a little extra time, Neil, so I've got about 10 more minutes.
Perfect.
Okay. So I found all these images. I love how artists and designers are capturing and portraying these principles here. That was my experience. I was like this, meditating in the canyons of Sedona and doing all of my inner work to clear myself. And then my crown chakra opened up. I went right out the top of my head. I got my wings. I flew with the angels. This is all in great detail. I recount my tale in my book, Hearing the Angels Sing. That's at my website, harpmagic.com. So please come and check out my stuff. Just a few more images. But then, with your light body, which is also like your non-local consciousness, you can transcend time and space, and you can perceive on the inner realms in your inner plane perceptions in your meditation. You can start to travel, and you can come into jeweled worlds like this. This is one of Ariel's designs. I've read Ariel, beautiful. And this is one of the main images that I used for many years. This is from the teachings of the Ascended Masters, which also shows this is the student like us, the aspirant, surrounded in a pillar of violet light to transmute all negativity, or dross. In yoga, dross is the heavier vibration stuck to us. We can transmute that with the violet flame, and we can move up Sushumna, up the central channel, and connect with our I am presence here, with the rainbow body of light. The rainbow body of light is all of your good attributes that you've collected throughout all of your multi-incarnations, all of the good works you've done. You have stored up in heaven for yourself, and it's a beautiful rainbow body of light. So the idea is, in your meditation now, go out the top of your head and travel up the central pillar and have union with your higher self, your divine self, your I am presence. And then bring this down the central channel and ground that into your body more and more, and fully embody your divine self. That is what I believe is one of our greatest missions here, is to fully embody who we are in our totality. And a couple more shots here. I love this shot just to open our perceptions and our minds to the vastness of space. This is the deep field image from the Hubble telescope from a few years back. The Hubble telescope is a space-based telescope, and they just pointed it at a random area of the night sky. And when they focused in, this is what they discovered. And there are hundreds of other galaxies, thousands of other galaxies, all containing billions of stars within them. So amazing kind of cosmic galactic neighborhood we live in here. And this is waiting for us to access it. We can gain access by firing the codes and activating our Merkaba, the light body. So I will end there, Neil, for now. I'll take a few questions.
Okay, beautiful. All right, let's do this. So we have a question here. Is the harp music anything like 432 hertz angel music, or do you have any comment on that?
I sometimes play in 432. I have not released any recordings in 432. My recordings and the way I mainly play is in A440. I've still had amazing results with people. People have reported angelic encounters and all sorts of beautiful visions with my music tuned at A440. What I believe, it's the intention behind the music that counts the most, not the tuning.
Yeah, and let me add to that and ask as a question. Some people believe like one frequency will help with these certain ailments. Do you think that, if there are frequencies that you can say this is what they do, or is it kind of different for everyone?
Yeah, I would imagine there is some validity to that. Now I have a friend who does voice analysis, which is interesting. You could do voice analysis and they record your voice and they analyze it with a spectrum analyzer, and they can see within your own voice which frequencies you're missing. And then they give you a tape or a CD that has that frequency on it. You just play that tone and you just bathe in that tone, and it fills that in for you, and it completely shifts your reality when you integrate the tones that you're naturally missing in your voice.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear an after story for someone or how it changed their life,
Yeah, I can connect you with that work if you want.
That'd be cool. All right, so Deidre here is saying, what is the best sound or tone to heal chronic body pain?
Oh boy. Well, I've had people, the harp is so soothing. Okay, so pain is in the nerves, it's in the strings of the nerves. So for years, I would go into the hospital and I would go into critical care units and play my harp for the patients that were recovering from, major surgeries and stuff. And a lot of times people would be in a lot of pain. And as soon as I would start playing the harp, their pain would go away. And this would happen regularly. And the doctors would follow me around sometime, and they would be too amazed at the power of my harp to relieve pain. So specifically, I would suggest for you, come to my website, harpmagic.com, and go to the music of The Angel's Gift or Out of the Blue. These are wonderful for pain. And you can listen to the samples and just sit there, take 5 minutes, because my music has been studied. Within 3 to 5 minutes, people will entrain to the frequencies coming, even off your computer. It's very powerful. So check that out and send me a message if I can help you.
Mm-hmm. And different frequencies probably do different things for everybody. So a frequency that might actually help someone alleviate pain might not help the other person, right? So it kind of have to maybe experiment with it, would you say? With different frequencies?
Yeah, that's like, for instance, the technology of the Healy is very popular, or has been, over the last year or two. And that was just specific frequencies, some for pain, some for depression, da, da, da. Yeah, I believe there's certain frequencies that affect all these conditions. But the harp has within it all the frequencies kind of combined. It's pretty cool the way it is. That's why it was the most sacred instrument and played in the temples of healing throughout ancient Egypt, ancient Samaria, and in Atlantis before that. The harp was always played because it's the strings of the harp, and it's got the phi ratio is built into the very structure of the harmonic curve of the harp. That's why the harp has a sound that nothing else sounds like a harp, and that's why it's engraved in the temple walls of Egypt. You see the harp player. It was always
It's an extremely intentional instrument, basically.
And I love it because it's found all over the world. Mm-hmm. It's in every culture around the world, and all through the Americas and ancient Greece, Egypt, Samaria, as I said. And so it's a magical instrument. It's also found throughout, the British Isles and the whole legends of Merlin. He carried a harp and was able to, do enchantments with the harp to enchant people. And that's what I do. I'm an enchanter.
Yes. All right. A few more questions here. Who is the artist musician that was working with the sound projection coming off plants?
Oh gosh, I So if you want to find out more about that, just Google Damanhur. So those of you who don't know, Damanhur is amazing. It's a community in Italy that carved into the mountain for 20 years in secret, and they built multiple temple rooms in the middle of this mountain that's like ancient Atlantis, with stained glass windows and huge crystals and all these sacred geometries and ancient light language. And they just came out public just in the last 10 years or 15 years because it got discovered and they had to bring it out. So one of their technologies they were doing there is this plant music, and they developed this machine that can sense the impulses from plants. So just Google Damanhur, Damanhur, plant music, and there's YouTube videos and information you will find.
Beautiful. Jackie is asking, how do we get the solar alerts on our phone? I couldn't write that down fast enough.
So go to spaceweather.com, spaceweather.com, and you will see on the home page a little advertisement, to sign up. You have to pay. It's, I don't know, a few dollars a month to get it, but it's well worth it, because the cool thing about that, as soon as there's a solar flare, within moments, there's an energetic blast that we get, because there is an aspect of the solar flare that's moving at superluminal speeds, faster than the speed of light, that impacts us almost simultaneously. So when you get the ping on the phone, stop for a minute if you can, and just open up and receive that pulse of high intensity light. And then it's like 2 days later where the main blast comes and hits the magnetic field of the Earth. And when we get hit by a coronal mass ejection, the magnetosphere that surrounds the planet actually reverberates like this. It's like a spring tension that's, it's protecting us from the solar wind. But when it gets hit, it goes boing, yoing, 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 yoing. And when when that's happening, it kind of throws us off a little bit, because we're calibrated, our nervous system, with the magnetic field of the Earth, for our sense of balance and direction. And when the magnetic field is being, reverberating with this, like hitting a bell tone, it can throw us off a little bit. I've noticed during those periods of time when I'm at my yoga class, my balance is not as strong when there's solar flares going on, because the magnetic field of the Earth is reverberating.
Mm.
Yeah.
So 2 more questions here, but one comment from Lena in YouTube is maybe you can riff on this a little bit as well, saying silence is golden as well. And then comment, yes, the harp, because obviously we talk about the harp. But I want to say firstly, before I open it to you, is that all things are vibration. So even silence is a vibration in itself. And, just because you can't hear the frequencies doesn't mean that there aren't frequencies all around us, creating all types of effects on us at every moment, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that was my path. That's what I call listening to silence, or what I call the roaring silence. So it's truly a profound, it's one of these sayings. There's a couple things. One of the great philosophers said, all of man's ills stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room by himself. And it's an old saying from somebody brilliant. I can't remember who it was. And then all of a sudden it says, be still and know I am God. Silence is golden. So when I got into silence and was so still and went so deep into the silence, where my mind just became absolutely void of any thought, just like what the Buddhists call emptiness. That's when I began to hear the celestial music.
Oh, interesting. Because I feel the exact same way, that a good yardstick to measure your spiritual evolution is how long you can sit with yourself in silence. And that's why I go to Vipassana and do that 10 days of silent meditation. It's really helped me be okay with myself, because 6-7 years ago, I couldn't even sit for like a few minutes with myself, and now I'm at a place where I can do it more. But the silence is beautiful. It really helps us evolve.
Silence is a doorway. It's a portal.
Yeah. All right. So last question here. Have you played the kora, which is an African harp?
I never have tried the kora. I've always wanted to, but one has not come my way. And but I hope that will happen sometime soon. And somebody was writing here in the comments that they're coming to Sedona. I also, that was Mary, that I do offer my vortex tours, my Sedona Sacred Land Journeys. So when you go to the website, there's also Sedona Tours, and you can see my information. I take people out in the Jeep, and I bring the wind harp and crystal bowls and tuning forks, and you have a whole sound activation experience out on the Red Rocks. It's truly a very profound, beautiful, holy experience. So if anybody's coming to Sedona and you want to have a guide, consider going out with me. I'd love to meet you, show you the special places.
Yeah, definitely. And I just posted your link in both YouTubes and on Zoom again. So check it out there. And great thing about Peter is not only a plethora of awareness information, but he's also available for people. So if you're going to go to Sedona, you can definitely book some time with him and learn and also experience the wind harp. You took us up there one time, remember? That was really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I always watch you posting your videos and your images when you take people up there and the big smiles on their face. Like, it's beautiful.
Well, everybody put in the comment section, because I keep telling Neil this. I would love to do a Portal of Ascension conference in Sedona for 3 days. I think it would be an amazing experience, and we could have part of that, have some group experiences out on the land together. So if that sounds good to you, put a yes in the comments box.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because we do events in Sedona, but it's like Michael Tellinger, this person, but I would love to do a 3-day event there. And if you want to kind of help me out a little bit, getting my foothold in there.
Oh, for sure. I'm here for you.
All right. I'm down.
All right. Loving the comments here. All right. Well, anything else?
Just a lot of appreciation, brother, from everybody in all platforms. Thank you so much.
Cool. Everybody come by and listen to my new album, The Winding Way. It's now spinning on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and any music portal that you listen to. Look for The Winding Way. It's a very heartfelt, deep, magical collection of songs, and I hope you enjoy it. So thank you for having me, Neil. Always great to be here with your community, Portal of Ascension. I look forward to the next time.
Thank you, brother. Love you.
Love you too. Over and out.
Have a beautiful day. Okay. All right, everybody, stick around. We're not done yet. We have some announcements. We have some exciting things coming up. I want to share with you all. So firstly, let me say that, again, we were off YouTube for a month and a half or so, but the premieres have been going out. So hopefully you've been enjoying the premieres that have been going out every single day. We're releasing thousands of hours of footage. Since I've been collecting and doing presentations for over 10 years now, there's over 10,000 hours of footage in the archives. So a lot of it's going out on YouTube. So please do click subscribe and join us so that you can get updates on everything that we do every single day. All the different videos that are going out. So in the Zoom room right now, I'm posting the YouTube link. If you want to go ahead and sign up, please go ahead and subscribe. You can click the notification bells if you want to get notified. If not, that's fine as well. If you're on YouTube right now, if you could subscribe, that'd be great. We just hit 40,000 people like 2 days ago, and I started YouTube back in 2009. 2 years ago, I was shadow banned. I was shadow banned from YouTube. They took away hundreds of thousands of views on my channel. I went from 500 new subscribers a month to 0 for a whole year. It wouldn't even move or budge. So I let go of the YouTube channel, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to concentrate on our Netflix style backend on PortalToAscension. I'm not going to put anything out on YouTube. But then all of a sudden, I just decided to start releasing content. And by doing that, the channel has been resurrected. We got around 5,000 new people in just the last 6 months. So we're really growing it as a archive of information, and also a constant flow of new relevant topics for everybody for free to engage in. So this was part of it. We're going to go live every now and then, but usually every Tuesday we'll probably be, most likely, be live with something. There'll be a few Tuesdays that I'm probably busy and can't do it. So starting tomorrow is our Tuesday every single week Portal to Ascension show. And I'm going to share with you just a few events here before we close out for the day. Firstly, one of the first events I'm extremely excited to share with you is the 5th annual Portal to Ascension conference. And this has, the first 2 were actually live and in person. The remaining 3 after that were online. And this is going to be October 1st to the 4th, which is only just over a month from now, just actually almost exactly a month from now, where we have 44 speakers, 4 panelists, and 4 presenters over 4 days. I'm sorry, 44 speakers, 8 MCs, 4 days, 4 panels. And let's pull the website up right now. This event here is free or by donation, and it's truly going to be epically groundbreaking, paradigm shifting event. And the intention for this one is really to create unity in a world with so much apparent division, so much divide and conquer has been the name of the game for thousands of years. But right now, I really want to share an event that just brings us together in unity, where we can also do daily mass meditations to shift the energy of the planet to be harmonious for the betterment of all of us. Because we're at a crossroads right now. We have a decision and a choice of which way we want to go. And inevitably, we're going to evolve in consciousness. It's just part of the plan. Look at the cycles of time. That's where we're heading. But at the same time, we need to do the actions and take the effort and the energy. We're in this reality of action equals manifestation, right? So as we're taking the action, what do? We see the commonalities in each other, and we harness experiences and cultivate experiences that can create unity. So this one is at ascensionconference.com, or you can go to Portal to Ascension online events and just sign up there, scroll down and you'll find it. Again, October 1st to the 4th. And let me read a little bit about this. Okay, we're going to spend around 10 minutes right now just going over just a few events that I'm excited to share with you. So join thousands of people around the world for this online summit to co-create a reality with the full disclosure of humanity's ancient origins, our spiritual essence, the nature of reality and the universe, the truth of the extraterrestrial presence, and ultimately the actions we can take to manifest this world. All attendees will receive unlimited replay access. We will be live on YouTube. We'll also have a Zoom room. Last time we had 8,000 people registered back in March since we do this twice a year now. This time I'm trying to go with 10,000 people so that we can really do some, huge shifts, especially when it comes to the mass meditations. And here are some of the presenters that will be there. We have Celestine Starr, Phil Gruber, just going to skim through some of these people, Barbara Lamb, Kathleen Martin, who's the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, Dan Winter, William Henry, J. and Desiree Hurtak, Foster Gamble, Kamora Jones, who's an incredible next level artist, Grant Cameron, Murray Rodwell, Paul Wallace, Adam Apollo, Michael Tellinger, Laura Eisenhower, flute player, Michael De Maria, amazing flute player, Jonathan Goldman, Deborah Giusti, and your MCs for these 4 days will be myself, Neil Gore, Alan Steinfeld, Shariah Dharma, Joan of Angels, Rob Yox from Full Spectrum Universe, Michelle Anderson, one of our great friends, Omar I Am One from Watchers Talk TV, and Brendan Cullerton from Paradigm Shift Central. And the 4 panels that we will have will be the UFO Disclosure panel, which is on Friday, the Ascension panel, which is on Saturday, the Experience panel, which is on Sunday, and the Ancient History panel on October 4th. So this event's going to be great, everybody. PortalToAscension.org. Go ahead and sign up under online events, or just go ahead and click ascensionconference.com. Okay. Now, tomorrow, if any of you want to join us live in the Zoom room, this is the event that's going to be happening tomorrow. Crop Circle activations with Nadi Hanna. And this is my first time having her on this platform. Alan Steinfeld introduced me to her. But if you're interested, this link right now, you can see me do it. I'm going to go ahead and just post it. Here, let's go ahead and give it to everybody on YouTube. That is the event if you want to join us tomorrow for this Crop Circle event. It's going to take place at 3 o'clock, and a little bit about the event. Crop circles contain advanced technologies that are designed to interface with our consciousness as we observe them. The formations transmit a higher dimensional intelligence capable of activating our latent sensory capabilities, intuitive genius, and multidimensional nature. They carry high vibrational frequencies that are here to assist our individual and collective consciousness. Come and find out how. So again, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific, do join us, or just go to YouTube, subscribe there, and you can watch the replay later if you can't attend live. Last share, everybody. My last share with you all is another event that we're doing. And if you don't know about Portal Ascension, if you're new to Portal to Ascension, we create around 110 events a year, which are retreats, tours, conferences, workshops, multi-day summits, Around 80% of them are paid events. Around 20% of them are free summits, just like the PortalToAscension Summit and the Crop Circle one and today's event on sound cymatics. We've actually picked up the momentum on our free events since this whole world situation has been going down. We've been just putting out a lot of relevant content to assist people in finding empowerment in this world where, you know, sometimes it's the struggle to really feel that. So we've been doing a lot of this. But our first, even though I did a Starseed Summit a few years ago, we're starting all over again. And now we're starting with an annual Starseed Summit 2-day online conference. And this is on PortalToAscension.org under online events. Go there and you'll find Starseed Summit right at the bottom. And this is going to be with 2 days with over 12 presenters. And just to give you a quick glimpse of who the presenters are. But the intention of this event is the following. The Starseed Summit invites all light workers to join us for 2 days of paradigm shifting awareness as we connect to our divine nature and explore our intrinsic connection to the cosmos, star beings, and other realms. So if you're interested in joining us for this event, please do go to our website and sign up there. And there's so many more events coming up. Alan Steinfeld remote viewing. I'm not going to go ahead and list them all. Mary Rodwell DNA activation event, the spiritual quickening. Just go to PortalToAscension.org, sign up. You'll get emails from us, or go to the online event section and you can find out everything there. Okay. So I hope to see some of you at these events, but I will definitely post one more time the Ascension Conference, because there really is no reason for you guys not to be a part of that event. There's going to be thousands of people involved in it. Attending, and there's going to be around 51 of us that are facilitating the event. And it's going to be such a huge range of information and awareness that if you want to be in an event that's not only empowering, informative, and full of educational experiences, then please do attend that event right there. Okay. So in closing, I'm now going to share a poem with everybody, and then we will close out for today. And I'm just going to take a look really quick at the chats here. And just to mention as well, Jonathan Goldman has just confirmed that he will also be, he is a pioneer and guru of Western sound healing awareness, and he will also be at the Ascension Conference as well. All right, so this poem that I'm going to do, this spoken word piece, is called The Journey, and it's one of my favorite ones. I've actually been doing this one since 2000. I wrote it in 2005, but since 2008, it's been my signature piece at all the open mics that I've ever gone to. And it's about the journey on Earth, the reincarnation of our experiences on Earth, and the waves that we have to ride, the devolution of consciousness and the evolution of consciousness, but really understanding that this is all a cycle and how all these pieces are just put into place for us to gain these experiences. So the journey. The road goes on for generations. The travelers would disperse their light amongst all the willingly incarnated souls. But what of the ones who didn't know? Amnesia of the internal endowment to reserve a place in the fifth dimension for themselves. The ego took control, and a better life they shall never know. I welcome you, Dark One, into the lap of luxury, followed by pain and woes. We all sold our souls to the devil, but the devil exists not. Negative energy we dub as evil creates the demons of whom we are fearful. Take the D from the demon, put it in front of the word evil, and now you have a personified devil. Our thoughts and experiences create this creature only exists in the mind. Our desires and wants create this full-featured ego that keeps our lower selves from reaching the divine. Intellect, love, and a perfect understanding we will have with one another. I welcome you, my brother, my sister, my lover, to become one, to help me become one, before reality tears me from duality and back into ether's imagination. You see? I'm the ghost of lies past. Generations have descended just to gain these experiences. And I pray the human situation is critical, mind analytical. Won't let me forget the fall of angels and demons into this third dimensional world. Is this planet yours? May I hide amongst the lost souls? Hide out for a bit, drink some liquor, smoke some weed, and step outside for a cigarette? Yes, sure. Here's a social security card. You may live. Reincarnated to a kid to live and give back to the society. When I'm locked in borders, I smolder, but the ashes come the horde of abstract thought. Who is not a ghost, a spirit, but just is an enlightened individual. Equality minus the elitist political goal, the cynical flow, the pain and woes, the shamanistic pagan rituals. We will resurrect the Messiah in all of us. It's time to trust our brothers and sisters. unity of mind, consciousness, awareness on the rise, the yin yang intertwined, masculine, feminine, lovers intertwined, spit words from the chakra points in my spine, relentless but still find inner peace helps on the pace of my corrupted mind, chemtrails, aspartame, fluoride, kept my awareness fried, getting drunk and high to blank the constant question of why am I really here? But now I know is to help humanity steer into the right direction. For every single one of you, I feel affection. We're in the same situation. So erase the awkward moments, trying to walk around and get that bonus. Remember, the Arcturians will be one of the group of interdimensional beings in the near future. Their mass landings will help us souls really breathe. So raise your frequency if this is what you want to see. And don't try to break free from the shackles of captivity that we formed in our own mentality, because you and I, we are, and we've always been free. Meditate and levitate. Waves of frequencies resonate higher. I'm connected to the provider. Source of cosmic energy. We're going to be one single entity. Expansion remedied. Oneness must breathe. Exhale and let free. Consciousness to be. Experiences of you and me. Souls of interdimensional beings to feel, hear, and see this third dimensional planetary existence. All time can be found in one instance. In this realm of linearity, atoms in anarchy, quantum polarity, the epitome of creation. Facing our egos, acquiring patience, waiting to let go of our nations and join the federation of souls that will take us to the fifth world. And join the federation of souls that will take us to the fifth world. We will join the federation of souls that will take us to the fifth world. Love you all so much. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And Peter Sterling, do check out Peter's website, heartmagic.com. Hope to see some of you tomorrow at the Crop Circle event. And I hope to see every single one of you at the Ascension Conference. Have a beautiful rest of your day, everybody. Catch you later.